Hello everyone, Kaoz here, and welcome to another Oldschool Runescape video. 2 weeks ago, I gave you guys a video going over 20 monsters you can easily kill in the mid-game and the beginning of the late game for profit. While those won't really teach you a lot in terms of mechanics, that is what this video is all about. With your newfound wealth, time to venture a little deeper into the world of PvM and to tell you how to climb the ladder of difficulty with some encounters in preparation for our 2025 bossing ladder video coming later this year. Fellas, if you find this video useful, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, drop a fat like for the YouTube overlords, and don't forget to join our Discord server with the link in the description to play with me and our amazing community. If you remember, I made a video like this in the past, but just like many of our previous uploads, we are giving this one a coat of fresh paint, thanks to a ton of new content that has come out to Oldschool Runescape since then. The following is a list of mid-game bosses, and even some tougher encounters which not only will give you relatively consistent profit, but make you a better player in general. For the bosses which made an appearance in that video I mentioned, I will also talk about new techniques to kill them, or any new information relevant to each of the encounters. I will include a very rough estimation of KC and GP per hour, but remember that it will all depend on your levels and the performance. That being said, let's begin. We will start with something even early game players will be able to do, and with a few more important changes into recent memory, the Barrows brothers should definitely be on your list if you are feeling lucky, hoping for some expensive uniques. Technically speaking, the only hard requirement to engage in this activity is completion of the Priest and Peril quest to access Mauritania. If you're an unrestricted account, you can camp at World 330 and use someone else's house in Remington to use the Barrows teleport. As an Iron account though, your journey will be a little more tedious. In reality, Barrows isn't really going to teach you a lot. The one thing you should definitely know though, is that thanks to the addition of elemental weaknesses around the mid-2024, the Barrows brothers are now weak to air spells. In the past, mid-game accounts would have to do this with an Ivan staff for decent damage. Nowadays, as long as you have an air staff and at least some death runes for Wind Blast, the Barrows brothers will be pretty easy to defeat. As long as you pray protect against their respective style, you are good to go. You also can't forget about the Strange Lockpick, an item coming from the Hallowed Sepulchre. Using this item on any of the doors in the dungeon will let you bypass them in case they can't be opened, and this even works on the doors which have you solving puzzles to go through. At the time of making this video, some of the best pieces you can get are Aram top and bottom, Carol top, and oddly enough a Darok's Great Axe. A lot of items also hover around a little over 500,000 GP, so great potential for loot coming from a boss encounter you can do with extremely humble requirements. The Crazy Ahrchaeologist is as safe as it gets when it comes to wilderness bossing. I know that having a wieldy boss, or even a demi-boss if you don't consider him powerful enough, might seem like a crazy call. But we have a few more on the list, and you definitely want to get comfortable with a wieldy at one point or another, and this is a great place to start. This is one of the few bosses on the list that has virtually zero requirements, since you can just get to him in the overworld, and this one is not locked behind any quest or achievement diary as we will see later on. All you need is to have 3 or 4 powerful magic items at your disposal, and fill the rest of your inventory with potions and food, and an emergency teleport. If Barrows was an easy enough encounter because you just need to pray against them, the Crazy Ahrchaeologist will only be able to damage you with book explosions as long as you pray ranged. This will teach you to telegraph attacks and where they are going to land to avoid damage. We have a lot of bosses that do this, and you have a few seconds of reaction time. And speaking of, if you ever see a PKer nearby ready to yoink your loot, bring an Amulet of Glory and set the left click option to any location of your choice. This item lets you teleport from level 30 wieldy or below, and if someone doesn't log in a few tiles away from you, it's going to be pretty easy to escape. The Crazy Ahrchaeologist doesn't have incredible loot other than a few alchables. What it does have though are 2 pieces of the wieldy shields, one of them worth 500,000 and the other one worth 1 million GP as of the time of making this video. We jump out of the wilderness for our next encounter, and that is Sarachnis. I've included this boss for a few of my videos in the past, but I haven't mentioned it more specifically since the introduction of an item which makes this fight insanely easy. This is yet another boss which doesn't really have any strict requirements, but I would recommend the ability to teleport to Hosedius via Karet's Memoirs, the Book of the Dead, or the Jarrek's Talisman to shorten the length of your trips. Once there, go west to the Forthos dungeon, and then south to slash through some webs. Sarachnis is not that big of a jump in terms of difficulty. All you need is to pray melee when you're next to it, and range when it's moving around. If you bring a range to top and bottom for magic protection against the mage spiders, you will only be taking chip damage, which can definitely add up, but Sarachnis drops the egg potato pretty often. What makes this fight infinitely easier and a lot more chill is a pair of Ahrania boots. I know that a 5 million GP boot item might seem a little excessive for the mid-game, but if you want to farm this boss for the pet, the uniques, or the generous drop table for elite clue scrolls, the boots will nullify the spiderweb effect of rooting you for a few seconds. This way, you don't need to pray ranged and just stick to Sarachnis 100% of the time. Unlike the Ahrchaeologist, Sarachnis doesn't have any super expensive drop, but it provides a good amount of noted resources and alchables, which will definitely add up for however long you decide to camp it. If you get grubby keys, it's just better to sell them, since the items coming from the grubby chest are not really worth using the key for. Time for a completely new boss in terms of my videos, as I have only covered it when we went over the release of Valimor Part 2. The Amoxliatl isn't a difficult encounter by any means, but it's a slight step up in terms of mechanics as the first of 3 bosses on the list. You will need completion of the Valimorian quest called the Heart of Darkness. Level requirements are pretty mild, although the quest itself takes a little too long to complete even with quest helper. When you kill the boss or the Frost Nagwas inside the dungeon, you can snag an item called a Pendant of 8. Charge it with Frozen Tears, and you can teleport right near the entrance of the dungeon. As long as you pray mage, you'll be protected from all incoming damage. Other mechanics you'll have to watch out for are dangerous ice tiles every few ticks, but the one where you were standing on will be permanently ragged for the rest of the fight. You also have to watch out for the boss turning off your prayers, and then summoning blocks of ice which you can kill one tick after another. I have this boss on this list mostly because it will do wonders when it comes to reaction time. It will definitely be helpful to get more comfortable with the tick system as you move away from dangerous tiles and break the blocks of ice. In terms of loot, we don't have anything spectacular, because the best drops are pieces of rune armor and noted resources. It has a pretty cool pet, but if you come here, do it mostly to learn, because only a few drops will add up. You know a boss is good when I featured it on my videos multiple times, and we go back to the Rat King one more time. Hopefully, before the next bossing ladder dropping this year. Difficulty is almost on par with the Amoxliatl, but we have a few more things to watch out for. This is also a boss with virtually 0 requirements. You can get here by heading to the Varrock sewers through the entrance near the museum, and then head east. When you defeat Scurrius enough times, you'll get an item called Scurrius Spine, which you can turn into a mace, a bow, or a staff. Praying melee will nullify most of the damage. However, you will have to watch out for both ranged and magic attacks, which look like green clouds and blue lightning respectively. Debris will also fall from the ceiling, and Scurrius can heal mid-fight by going after the cheese on the edges of the room. When this happens, Scurrius will summon 6 rats, all of which you can kill one tick after another if you are wearing a rat bone weapon. Scurrius also has an enraged phase, where he will go to the middle of the room and use ranged and magic attacks quicker than before while debris falls from the ceiling. This will also help you practice your reaction time and movement for other mechanics found in more difficult bosses. Just like the Amoxliatl, Scurrius doesn't feature any drops that will make you rich overnight. You have adamant and rune items, stackable resources, and some food and potions to help you stay here for a little bit longer. Along a decent rate for medium clues and spines for experience lamps, this is something you should 100% try during your mid-game adventures. Next on the list we have the Hueycoatl. Another boss coming with the release of the second part of Valimor brought with it new mechanics, an extremely fun encounter to do with friends, and it's also extremely mid-game friendly to further improve your PvM skills at some point. You can get here with your Pendant of 8 after discovering the statue nearby, or via Quetzal landing spot south of the mountain. You will need to read a quick tutorial about what's going on, which will give you an idea of how to deal with the dragon boss in case this is your first time here. The fight starts pretty simple. Attack 5 segments of the tail, and when all of them reach 0 HP, you'll be able to go up the mountain. Start attacking with melee, and watch out for the falling rocks. Pray melee against the red ones, ranged against the green ones, and magic against the blue ones. You and your team will have to balance prayers so the dwarf charges up the pillars, and if all the flames light up, the Hueycoatl will take additional damage. At 50% HP you have to attack the tail, and after taking it to 0 HP, all you need to do is close out the fight while dodging lightning. Grab your loot, and either resupply at a nearby bank, or wait for you to be teleported out to the first section of the fight. This boss has better drops overall, a lot of which are either noted or stackable. The Hueycoatl Hide, Tome of Earth, and especially the Dragon Hunter Wand will make a special jingle if they drop, and you can either keep them for some interesting upgrades or sell them for profit. Next on the list are the Royal Titans, the newest boss encounter as of the time of making this video. This one is kinda bittersweet because Jagex confirmed that this is pretty much the last mid-game boss of its kind they release, so we gotta enjoy it as much as possible. Found in the Asgardian dungeon, the Ice King and the Fire Queen can be fought either duo or solo. If you can find a partner to do this with, I would say this is almost mandatory to do it this way, since it will be a lot faster, and you don't share loot. Simply put, there's literally no drawback for doing this in a duo. I want to do a Royal Titans guide coming up in the near future, even though it's a little too late, so I'm not going to get too much into detail. Attack with ranged when the giants are far away from you, and the melee when you can reach them. Watch out for walls of ice and fire, and the little elemental guardians they summon, both of which you can one-shot with the opposing spell. As for the enraged phase, you will only have to watch out for their charge attack, which has you going to a spot marked on the arena to avoid 3 big slams, and when both of the giants hit 0 HP, you can loot their corpses to go at it again. Loot here is a lot better than pretty much all the bosses we have on this list, but one of the main reasons why mid-game players should absolutely come here is because of the prayer scrolls. These cannot be sold, but will upgrade your Eagle Eye into Deadeye, and the Mystic Might into Mystic Vigor. They will give you a chunky increase in the respective DPS, and any additional loot will add up for any upgrade you might need. We are stepping up in terms of requirements, and our next encounter takes us to the Nepotli dungeon to fight the Moons. This might feel like a harder challenge to some people, but we have a few cheats and hacks which will make it a lot more bearable. First of all, completion of the quest to Perilous Moons, which also serves as a tutorial for this activity. I heavily recommend at least 75 attack for a Zamorakian Hasta, and 70 defense for Barrows armor. For the rest of your gear, focus on strength bonus since your armor will do a lot of the heavy lifting. If you want to check out my in-depth guide from nearly a year ago, you will find it on my channel. Very similar to the Barrows brothers, you will need to defeat all 3 moons to be able to roll their item tables. We bring a Zamorakian Hasta because it's a cheap item which is capable of using all 3 attack styles. Change it to Stab for the Eclipse Moon, Crush for the Blue Moon, and Slash for the Blood Moon. It may not be the most effective weapon against all 3 bosses, but it's super convenient and you will have more space for food and potions. We are going to do all 3 rooms because killing each moon will give you a chance to land on their expensive uniques. If you're lucky enough, you can get multiple of them in a single chest. Outside of them though, you will only be getting a few supplies. This is not terrible though, because your food and potions can be made inside the dungeon, making this encounter 0 supply input and 100% profit. Next, I want to talk about a boss which you can definitely try in the mid-game, and the keyword here is try, since to farm it more efficiently, you might want to wait for higher stats and gear. But more on that later. The Grotesque Guardians are the only monsters on this list which require a Slayer task to defeat, as well as level 75 Slayer. You will first need to kill gargoyles at the Slayer Tower for a brittle key, which can only be obtained during a Slayer task. Once obtained, you can open the gates leading to the roof. You can only damage Dawn with ranged and Dusk with melee. Take Dawn below 50% HP for Dusk to go to his second phase, and then take him below 50 HP avoiding falling rocks which can stun you if you're under 3x3 area. Eventually, they will summon purple and orange lightning on the arena, so move away from their adjacent tiles. Either click on all 3 purple orbs which Dawn throws out, or be quick on the damage to kill her before the orbs come back to heal her for a good chunk of HP. When done, Dusk will throw you back, and you will only need to get back on him to finish the KC. This fight might sound a little convoluted, but after encounters like Scurrius and the Royal Titans, you should definitely be prepared to deal with their mechanics. Being a more difficult fight, it also provides more regular loot than the previous encounters, excluding uniques. This is a boss that I have not done properly in a few years, as I spooned the pet at 130 KC, and I only got back in there to finish the combat achievements. If you're looking for an engaging fight instead of having to AFK gargoyles, the Grotesque Guardians should definitely be part of your journey. I will now talk about 6 encounters that are either more dangerous or more difficult, and just like our previous video going over 5 additional monsters for the beginning of the late game, these 6 have the chance to give you more profit and teach you more in terms of mechanics, but it's something you should look as aspirational content if you are in the mid-game. I'll be a bit more brief about all 6 of them, and if you want to learn more about them, I have guides to all of them on my channel. First, we have Calvarion. I've been grinding this on stream for the pet, and as long as you have pretty standard melee gear, your Salve Amulet E will be doing most of the heavy lifting. It will go great with an Ursine Chain Mace if you can afford its relatively cheap price of 7 million GP. I like to prime melee here to avoid damage from the hounds, as this is a 0 damage boss if you dodge everything correctly. If you can't afford an Ursine Chain Mace, a Zami Hasta or even a Zombie Axe will do just fine as long as you have them on Crush. Calvarion has a ton of generous drops with over 100k, like Noted Raynar, Oak Planks, and Dragon Bones. And if you land on the lucky Ring of the Gods or Voidwaker Blade, it will all be worth it for some decent profit. If you got an Ursine Chainmace though, this will also come in handy at Spindle. This one is a little deeper in the wieldy, but nothing a level 30 or lower teleport can't get you out if a PKer shows up. Reminder that for all the baby versions of the wieldy bosses, you will need completion of the medium wieldy diary. Also, you need 20 KC to be able to right-click peek into their lair to know if someone is already there. The spider boss is a little bit more dangerous because it features a few more mechanics which can damage you, since you want to protect melee at all times. As long as you stay next to it though, you won't have many issues outside the small spider summoned by it, which can drain prayer. This boss also drops the most expensive piece of the Voidwaker blade, and at the time of making this video, the gem goes for above 50 million GP. Even if you don't get it, standard loot is also pretty generous. We finished the wieldy bosses with Ahrchaeologist, and I would say this is the most dangerous one because it has a pretty deadly mechanic, which can hit for devastating damage if you're not paying attention. For this one, you're better off using Mage or Range, as you are much safer attacking from a distance. Just pray Mage when the white orb is coming your way, and avoid the bear traps while praying Range to be nice and healthy. Just like the previous two bosses, Ahrchaeologist features a pretty similar drop table which has decent regular loot, and a few items under which are worth over 100,000 GP. The Voidwaker hilt goes for around 10 million GP, but in terms of uniques, this is all we're looking for since the claws and the Treason's ring are pretty cheap in comparison. Up next we have the Gauntlet. No, not the corrupted Gauntlet, but rather the regular version. The blue prison has weaker mobs, more time to prepare, and an easier time for the Hundle fight. This encounter is way too convoluted to even give you a small summary, so for that, go watch my corrupted Gauntlet video, which will also help you for the base variant. After the Song of the Elves, base level 75s, and then maybe the prayers unlocked from Royal Titans, this is one of the key places to visit if you want to get a lot better at the game. Being the easier encounter of the two, drop rate for meaningful items like enhanced weapon and armor seeds are a lot lower, and standard loot will be a little bit lackluster too. But who knows, getting one of those uniques from the chest will definitely make your eyes pop out, especially since this is another encounter that requires literally 0 GP input. The runner-up spot on this list is Entry Mode Tombs of Amoxliatl. It may seem crazy that I'm including a raid in a mid-level bossing guide to build up PVM skills and your bank, but to those of you who know a little bit about the raid, you can agree that any invocation level under 150 makes all 5 bosses in the room feel like giant mole. Well, except maybe for Ahrchaeologist. This is something you want to do exclusively to learn more mechanics and get better at the game, because the chances of getting something valuable from an entry-level raid will be as rare as Reddit not crying about an update, forcing Jagex to either rolling things back or addressing the issue on their socials. Being the easiest raid setting in the game, it will definitely give you the confidence to try harder content. Last on the list we have the Nightmare of Ahrchaeologist. Not the Phosani's Nightmare, since that's a completely different beast. Honestly, entry-level TOA and the Nightmare could be interchangeable in terms of difficulty, but this fight goes here due to the fact that if you don't get a unique item, you will be literally losing money at this place. Just like the previous two activities, the fight is way too complicated to summarize in just a few words, but the Nightmare will teach you a ton if you're looking to get better at the game. If you're able to find a team, or even join the mass world and make it through enough KC without dying, I would say you're pretty much ready to face the tougher challenges. So boys and girls, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something useful. If you did, tell me which mid-level boss you like the most and why, and if you include the term RSN and your username in your comment, you'll be entered in our weekly bond giveaway, for which we will pick a winner on Friday's stream. I want to give a massive thank you to all the people you see on this list for financially supporting this channel, which helps feed my family and helps me contribute to a local animal shelter. If you want to be part of this list of legends, click the join button below to see all the cool perks and rewards you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord. In the next one, we will go over my road to Grandmaster, taking a look at the remaining combat achievements I had towards that Zug helmet and the golden Avernic Defender. For now, I hope you have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.